Oh, hey everybody, I didn't see you there. Today I'll be talking about my views on Australian censorship. For digital media, censorship is called classification in Australia. I'll be focusing mainly on the video game side of censorship, but every now and then questioning some of the TV shows and films that have been classified by the Office of Film and Literature Classification, the OFLC. So what are my views? After accumulating a lot of research to do with the OFLC, it is clear that there are strong inconsistencies when it comes to censoring video games and films. The material, though technically being given a consultative rating, can officially be denied, which leads to the material being banned. This system has numerous levels of restricted categories, prohibiting sale, exhibition, and use of some materials to people under the recommended age limit. Because of the rules put forth of the Australian Communications and Media Authority, the ACMA, video games and internet sites hosted in Australia are considered to be some of the strictest in the Western world. In 2005, the Australian government introduced what it described as a new classification system for films, video games and the internet. But this amounted to little more than a new set of graphic labels used for the existing censorship categories that had been in use for many years before that. These changes were hyped with extensive television and cinema advertisements with the new slogan, "Informing your choices," a soundbite to which some critics cynically added, "by making them for you." According to the director of the OFLC, Australia's censorship body, these changes dramatically broke new ground and created a unique classification system in Australia. Internationally, censorship of the internet and other new media has caused dilemmas, public controversy, and legal entanglements. So what is it about the Australian censorship system that makes it unique? Well, it's been described as the most harsh and severe in the world, and as entirely useless. This is made evident when comparing Australia's censorship to a similar country such as Canada. After looking at the research surrounding censorship in Canada, it seems to be that they don't ban many shows or games because they believe it to be a public freedom. The governing body that is responsible for censorship in Canada is called the Human Rights Commission. Stephen Harper, prior to becoming Prime Minister of Canada, stated, "Human rights commissions, as they are evolving, are an attack on our fundamental freedoms and the basic existence of a democratic society. It is in fact totalitarianism." I find this very scary stuff. What he's basically saying here is that it's a person's basic freedom to watch and play whatever they see fit. And it is the individual's responsibility to interpret the content for what it is, a publication and nothing more. Keith Martin, a Liberal Member of Parliament from British Columbia, introduced a motion that called for the deletion of Section 13 of the Canadian Human Rights Act, arguing that it is in violation of Section 2 of the Canadian Chapter of Rights and Freedoms, which guarantees each person's freedom of expression. Mr. Martin said that hate crimes, slander and libel would still be outlawed under the criminal code, while his motion would stop human rights tribunals from imposing restrictions on freedom of speech using taxpayers' money. "We have laws against hate crimes, but no one has a right to be offended," he said. "The provision is being used in a way that the author of the act never envisioned. I'm fully aware that the policymakers are censoring these publications to try and stem the flow of violence and illicit scenes that are being watched. But as the research states, most of the research on whether video games encourage violence is unsatisfactory. If video games really did make people violent, these tendencies might be expected to show up in the figures. Perhaps, as some observers have suggested, gaming actually makes people less violent because it acts as a safety valve. So a game's good rather than bad for people? Oh. Now let's talk about some games and some inconsistencies. Voyeur is a full-motion game that was released in 1993. If you're not familiar with what a voyeur is, I'm both impressed and very skeptical on your seeming innocence. Google defines voyeur as a person who gains sexual pleasure from watching others when they are naked or engaged in sexual activity. Voyeur was originally released as a flagship product for the short-lived Philips CDI multimedia system. This game was originally classified as MA15+, but was later appealed and banned from sale in Australia. The OFLC released a statement to address the reasoning behind the banning of this game. They stated, "This game was banned because of a scene of high-impact sexual dialogue involving incest." And that's exactly what it was. The controversial scene was audio suggesting incest. Now, what was that really famous show that's broadcast around the world, is accepted by all classification boards, and has scenes of brother-sister incest? Nah, I can't think of it. So why aren't we allowed to play a game that alludes to incest, but we can watch it happen on a TV show before our very eyes? In 1992, Quentin Tarantino's world-acclaimed film Reservoir Dogs hit screens around the world. The movie was classified R18 and continued to be classified R when the new laws were passed. In 2006, Reservoir Dogs, the video game, hit US and European shelves. Though the game followed the storyline and scenes showed in the film, the game never made it to Australia, as it was deemed to show high-impact violence and disturbing scenes of torture, therefore being banned. My argument here is, if it's possible for us to watch actors commit torture, why aren't we allowed to watch a cutscene of the exact same thing in a video game? It's in scenarios such as this that we see the inconsistencies of the OFLC and what they choose to censor. Further inconsistencies are present when we compare the Reservoir Dogs video game with Grand Theft Auto 5. Throughout this game, we're presented with violence, vulgar language, drug use, sexual references, violence. When you play through Grand Theft Auto 5, you're forced to commit illegal acts such as murder, prostitution, and once again, drug use. And eventually you get to a mission where you choose a weapon to torture a victim with the ability to control the torturous acts. Why aren't we allowed to watch a crappy CGI cutscene that was identically copied from a film that we've been allowed to watch over the past 25 years, but we're allowed to control how fast or slow we yank a guy's tooth out in an act of torture? Finally, the most recent game to be banned from Australia is called Hotline Miami 2: Wrong Number. Hotline 2 is a 2D top-down action video game developed by Denaton Games. The developers of Hotline Miami 2 responded to the super violent game not getting a classification in Australia. They believe the Australian Classification Board incorrectly portrayed the scene that has caused the game to be banned. The official statement from the Australian Classification Board states, "In the sequence of gameplay footage titled Midnight Animal, the protagonist character bursts into what appears to be a movie set and explicitly kills 4 people who collapse on the floor in a pool of copious blood, often accompanied by blood spatter. After stomping on the head of a 5th male character, he strikes a female character wearing red underwear. She is knocked to the floor and is viewed lying face down in a pool of copious blood. The male character is viewed with his pants halfway down, partially exposing his buttocks. He is viewed pinning the female down by the arms and lying on top of her, thrusting, implicitly raping her." The developers responded, "In response to the report itself, we are concerned and disappointed that a board of professionals tasked with evaluating and judging games fairly and honestly would stretch the facts to such a degree and issue a report that describes specific thrusting actions that are simply not present. Grand Theft Auto 3, though not having the best graphics, has substantially more realistic looking characters than that in Hotline Miami 2. It was banned for having sexual violence involving prostitutes, but was later released on PC with an MA15 rating. So once again, why is Hotline Miami banned and GTA 3 available?" So, in conclusion, apparently it's okay to watch a brother and sister perform incestual acts on a television show with real people, but not okay to play a video game that has dialogue alluding to incest. Apparently it's okay to watch a high-impact torture scene with real people, but not okay to watch the exact same scene with crummy CGI characters. And apparently it's okay to torture and sexually assault a victim in one video game, but not the other. It's 2015, and though I've displayed a pretty biased argument, it is clear to see the inconsistencies of censorship in Australia, and I strongly believe that the classification boards should be put up for review.